Hello everyone, welcome to the fourth lesson of our Excel Foundations pre-course. We have a great lesson today for you. Today we are going to look at the structure of complex formula. In lesson number 3 we learned how the basic formula structure is, and we also applied that to our dummy profit and loss statement. We are going to look at a few complex formula examples and the structure of Excel functions. Excel functions are very important. These are predefined Excel formulas, and we are going to take a look at that, and we are also going to use some commonly used Excel functions which are very handy and great time savers. And when you get into Excel and you are working in Excel, you cannot actually use Excel to its full potential without the use of these predefined functions, and there are many. There are hundreds of functions available, and you can use them very easily. Now, look at this formula. This is somewhat complex, not very complex, but still the complexity is greater than what we have been doing in the previous lesson. So if you look at this, we are adding cell A1 with B1 and then subtracting cell C2. This is in parentheses, and it is getting multiplied with D9. Now there are a certain set of rules which govern how these calculations are going to be performed, because otherwise if it just goes from say left to right or right to left, uh, you will not get your desired uh, answer. So you need to actually understand a few rules for for getting into such formulas. Sorry. Okay, now the first thing is the parenthesis. If we look here, uh, a1 plus b1 minus c2, they are inside parenthesis. So this a1 plus b1 minus c2, this will happen first. This will be calculated first, and then it will be multiplied with d9. Okay, now there are other rules. After that, exponents, the power. If something is raised up to the power 2 or 3, so after parenthesis, that will be taken care of. And then comes multiplication and division. So you need to be very careful when you are writing your formulas. Even if you write the multipliers later than your addition and subtraction signs, the Excel is just going to multiply that first. It will always follow these rules, and then it's going to add, so you may not get your desired answer. And then the last is addition and subtraction. Okay, now you also need to understand that Excel takes, there is no preference of multiplication and division between these two, and between addition and subtraction. Actually it is what you write at the leftmost side after equal sign, that calculation will be performed first. Let's look at that. Now here you have a1 plus b1 minus c2 and a1 minus c2 plus b1. In this case, these two are not equal, because it's not like what we have been studying in our mathematics classes. The rule was that addition is done prior to subtraction. No, that's not how the case is here. So it would be a1 will, in the first case, a1 is going to get added to b1, and then c2 will be subtracted. The data in c2 cell, these are all cell references. In the second case, the subtraction is going to happen first, and then, so just understand this rule that it is always from left to right. Whatever you write before equal sign, uh, after equal sign first, will happen first. That will be calculated first. Now in the same case is for multiplication. If you look at these two, So C9 is getting divided by G4 and it's getting then multiplied by say F5. So in the first case, C9 will get divided first, and in the second case, G4 is going to get multiplied with F5 first. So these are a few rules which we need to understand and also keep in mind. Otherwise, we are not going to get our desired results. Now let's go to our spreadsheet. Okay, getting back to our profit and loss statement, which we had been working on since the first lesson. So let's assume, just for simplicity and also the purpose here is to make you understand the use of complex formulas, that our marketing cost initially over here, this 100,000 every quarter, this was an assumption. We actually did a few road shows, and that was for simplicity purposes. Let's say we assume that that is the only marketing cost which was put in for this certain product, the revenue stream that we are talking about. Uh, so now, getting a realistic number, I will delete this 100,000 and see, as I delete this, all the formulas are in place, so the number quickly changes accordingly because now this is 0. Okay, now let's say we had three road shows, one in the north, one in the north, another in say south, and one in east. So let's say we incurred some logistics cost and there was some payment which you know, we paid to different vendors, and then our team member stayed at certain hotels, and let's say the number of staff, right, how many people were involved, and the total cost. Okay, now in north, let's say the logistic cost was 20,000 and say 15,000 was the vendor cost, and the staff uh, per one person, uh, the cost was $1,000. Okay, now we are not getting dollar sign now, as I already explained that I will just simply select the data, even including the one where I have made no entry, and select dollar, remove these two decimal points. We have already done that. Okay, now here I need say three staff members were involved. Now I don't need dollar here, so simply I select this one and I change it to number. I don't need decimal places, I will remove them again. Okay, now in the South Road show, say the logistics cost was 25,000. My vendor costed, this was like an expensive event, and 2,000 was spent here. Say 4 people were involved. Let me select this so that we don't get irritated every time we enter a data and it gives me a dollar sign, which I don't really need. Okay, now, and in the last one, once I make the data entry, then I'm gonna put in the formulas accordingly. So in the last one, the East Road show, say this was rather cheaper. Okay, here I have only put 2,000. I think it should have been, let's make it 20,000 here and 20,000 here as well, and here it's 1,500. Okay, and 5 people were involved. here. Okay. Now this hoteling cost, this is only for the staff members. This has no impact here. Uh, okay. Now let's calculate the not shown. So as we did previously, the first thing that we do is the equal sign. This is something which you should remember, that the equal sign is how you start a formula or a function. Functions we will be discussing next in the same lesson. Now I have to add logistics cost. So this is here. I'm going to add the vendor cost. Now I need to add the hotel cost, and I have three members, so it's going to get multiplied with this. The best way is to actually use parentheses in this case. You don't really need that because the Excel is going to multiply first in any case, but still it's safe to use parentheses. Now this is my cost here, and I will repeat the same. So these are your costs which you conducted, and let's say here in the first quarter you conducted the north, in the second quarter you didn't do anything, in the third quarter you had this one, and in the fourth quarter you just put in the equal sign here and select the cell, or you can even write. So this is G15, so you write G15 and enter. So this is how simple this is. Now the formula, and as I have already explained it to you, the more you play with this, the more you use these, you are going to learn more. So you really need to get your hands dirty. This was about the complex formulas, and the formula you can actually change it and play around with it. I'm going to leave it at that and go to now the most beautiful and powerful feature of Excel, which are functions. Next. Now we will discuss functions, one of the most important and very helpful feature of Excel. Uh, Without this, Excel will be nowhere. So this is the syntax. By syntax, I mean how you write a certain function. These are predefined formulas, and you don't need to worry about this sum at the moment. What does this function do? You just need to understand the syntax. We are going to explore this and a few other commonly used formulas just after understanding the syntax. So the first and the foremost is your equal sign. This is important for any formula and any function. This, okay. Now this is the name of the function. You actually have to write a function with, and there are hundreds of functions already defined in Excel, and these are the arguments. So this sum function is going to act on cells from A1 to A5, all the data that is written in that, and it is going to return a value. In this case, it's going to add all the data that is present in A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, all this column A, and return us with an answer. Now we are going to explore the functions of Excel at a deeper level. Now, if you remember, we inserted our formulas, these big and hectic formulas. We actually don't need to do that. Let's change this formula with our function, the function that we actually use sum. The sum function, it when you put the equal sign and you write sum and then parenthesis, that they are actually required for any function as we expect. Uh, Now I want the product cost, marketing and all these costs, and I'm going to drag it down here. So these are my arguments that I want to do, and I'm going to close the parenthesis and I'm going to press enter, and I get the same answer which I used to get earlier. So it's sum and then you add all these up. Okay, now, and the fill handle will work in the same manner. You drag it and here it is. You get all the answer. But now if you look at this, so it's not uh, D4 plus D5 plus D6. No, it's simply sum D4 till D9. So these are the arguments. Okay, there can be multiple arguments or a single argument depending upon functions. You don't need to worry about that. We are going to look at it at a later stage. Currently, we are going to work with a few very common and some functions which are very handy for people who are just beginning to work in Excel. So one is the understanding of the sum function. Okay, now there is another thing. Uh, if I want to get an average of my, say, product cost, okay, what is the average cost of all these expenses? Let's say I add here an average, and I don't need to do all the work. I will just select this cell, all these cells, and select, I'm talking in terms of formatting, select format painter, click here. Okay, now so everything is there. Whatever I write, it will be in dollar terms. So that is something which we just got out of the way. Format painter is something which you will be using a lot and it is going to help you a lot. Okay, now I don't need average for this. Revenue, it's the same. It should not have been like this. Let's change this. If we don't like it, we can change it. You can always change it. Let's say here we add this, and here we say we made double the amount. Okay, now I think this now solves it. So let's get an average revenue. So what am I going to, the syntax is again, it's equal average. You don't need to worry about the names of the functions. You will get it. There are also a list of all these formulas. I'm going to tell you just now. But let's put in the average formula. So if you want to calculate the average, you put the average parenthesis and you just simply drag it and you got the average. Okay, now as I told you, the cell width is not enough to accommodate the number size. So you have this and you drag it down, you get your average. This is something so handy and something so time saving. These are predefined formulas. You just need to put in the argument and get the result. You don't need to think about the logic of the formula. You just need to, but one thing is that you need to understand what is the return value of your function. That is very important. Okay, now we have done averages. So what else we can do? We can say do minimum value, in which quarter the values were minimum. we can have maximum value, or simply we can get a count of the value. It will return the same, but just for understanding purposes. So, and I'm gonna select this format painter, and let's do it here. Okay, now. So we have this. So what is the minimum value? You write minimum, min is the argument, and you select this, and you get this. Okay, so the minimum value was 1 million. Now you also need to understand that you can select different cells. For example, I want to uh, see if what is the minimum value between first quarter uh, in your marketing cost and the fourth quarter. And I don't need to check the comparison of quarter 2 or 3. So I only need the comparison of only these two quarters. So what I can do is that I write minimum, put in the bracket sign. Now I select C5, put in a comma. So the next argument is here. I select this and I get 38,000. So you get the idea that I actually ignored this. So okay, the maximum is going to tell you the real story here. So in maximum you can do the same. Let's say I want to find in this cell the maximum value of the whole table. So is equal to maximum, you put a bracket and you select the whole table, whole of it, see, and you get 2 million. So this, in this whole table, this 2 million, this one is the maximum value. Okay, if let's say if I want to find the count, how many values are here totally, how many entries have been made. So I would simply do is equal to count bracket and say I select these entries. Okay, how many entries of roadshows, how many entries that belong to roadshows are here? And I close the brackets and I press enter. So there are 15. Okay, the format it can actually change because this is now. So there are a total of 15 entries. And you can now understand that we have used sum, minimum, maximum, count, and average. These formulas, these functions are really important, and you are going to repeatedly use these. Okay, now, as I told you earlier that Excel has hundreds of functions, so where you can find them. So in the upper side, you can select formulas, and I selected, and see, you have financial, logical, text, data. There are so many functions which are here, even text, logical, functional, mathematics, uh, there are a lot of formulas and a lot of functions, sorry, a lot of functions and predefined formulas. So uh, you can call them formal, but they are predefined, they are functions. So they take some argument and they will return a value. So you need to understand that you put an equal sign, write the name of the function, your desired function, put in the required argument. The arguments may be different. There could be multiple arguments. In this, we didn't get into a lot of complex functions, which we will do later as we go along this course, but you get an idea how this works. We did with the whole table, the whole array, and also we got the return value of the count. I hope you liked this lecture, and if you did, then please subscribe and also hit the bell icon so that you know when lecture 5 will be uploaded. Thank you.